Good morning. I am your host, Linda Schell, along with Linda R. Wright. And welcome to Writers on the Air. We're a show dedicated to all writers and genres. Until COVID, we met Sunday afternoons at Common Grounds Meeting Hall next to the WKDW 97.5 FM radio in Warm Mineral Springs Shopping Plaza in Northport. Now we're doing our show virtually. WKDW Radio is the home, by the way, of Real Community Radio and is on the air through the efforts of volunteers at WKDW and the sponsors for our various shows. One example is Open Mic, which airs on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Bud Buckley invites songwriters and singers to perform. Please contact Bud if you would like to join his jam sessions that right now are COVID friendly. Our radio address is 12737 Tamiami Trail, Northport, 34287. Our station phone number is 941-564-8739. That's 941-564-8739. And now we'll begin our show. And because of limited time, I'm going to go to our one and only airline pilot, Alan Hodgson. And when Alan has read for us, then we have a special guest we want to interview. Alan, what do you have for us today?
Okay, this first one is a rhyming poem. It's called The Young Shiloh Tourist. It was his 15th birthday, had lied about his age to serve. So young to feel committed, so brave to have the nerve. His father joined before him and his eldest brother too. Marched through Tennessee from Nashville, the gallant boys in blue. They came upon the river and crossed in cloak of night. The strength of Buell's army had arrived at Grant's campsite. On that chilly April morning, long before the light of day, with muskets primed and ready, advanced on lines of grey. This second day the alarm went up. The young lad had fought his best. Hour by hour the Union saw the rebels so hard pressed. So the Greys picked up their spoils and reluctantly withdrew, except for a musket marksman that aimed at a lad in blue. The musket ball flew swiftly and struck him in his side. The sod ran red with young blood where this junior soldier died. A young life lost to conflict when others won the day. This boy had come to Shiloh, and this is where he'd stay. That's one.
I like that one. Hey, Alan, do another one. We're going to, we always go on to the next author, but we're going to have you do another one today.
Right. Holy Devastation. Our last visit was with friends. They had not traveled abroad before. The expectation had been for fun and new sights, with culture absorbed not by chance. The British Museum had brought great interest, as had the Shakespeare Theatre, though the medieval recitation had presented a challenge. Following Britain, we moved on to Paris. The splendor of Versailles Palace, Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre, second home to Leonardo da Vinci's wry smile on the Mona Lisa. The moment to remember were the awesome sights of our friends on arrival at Notre Dame, their appreciation of this masterpiece of Gothic architecture. This had been the crown of a wonderful and fulfilling vacation. These years later, 4 of us stood in horror as the vision of an orange sky over Paris, bursting sparks, dark smoke billowing, age-old stone blackened, ancient oak beams crashing to the cathedral floor, artist treasures, some saved, many lost. Tragedy for royalty and peasantry alike, many faces in disbelief, tears running down smudged cheeks. Paris, city of lights, Notre Dame was burning. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda really likes that one too, Alan.
Yes.
Do you have another one?
I've got a quickie for you.
Yeah, let's do a quickie.
A little change of pace. The
Okay.
the fairy. On a night such as this, with dark stormy sky, where oh where doth my little fairy lie? At the edge of the forest in a hollow oak tree, huddled in a cosy nook where none can see. Snow on the north side, cold and deep, muffles all noise and lets fairy sleep. A door on the south side, small and strong, keeps my fairy safe the whole night long. Critters gather round her, shield her bed, butterflies alight on the golden head. When she awakes, her love to impart, so glows the warmth in her fairy heart. Amen.
That little fairy program or story came from a great big brute of a guy.
They are.
And now I would like to introduce Mary T. Wagner to Writers on the Air. Welcome, Mary. Mary is from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, which is known as the Malibu of the West. And she started out as a newspaper and magazine journalist. And then about the time she was 40 years old, she changed careers and became a criminal prosecutor. And she has argued and won cases before the Wisconsin Supreme Court. And believe it or not, even though she was a mean lady, she has written some delightful books about cats for children. And one of her books about cats is inspired by a rescue cat, which I thought was really neat. And she is an award-winning author for When the Shoe Fits. Okay, what do you have to read for us today, Mary? Or what would you like to say before you start to read?
Hi. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I've been to Florida a few times, and I just absolutely love parts of the state, even though I'm not quite sure sitting up here in Sheboygan exactly where you are yet. I will have to look it up on a map. So yes, the Finnegan series. I had, been writing off and on since I was 20, 21 years old, and started off in newspaper journalism, and then did freelance magazine writing when I was a soccer mom, raised 4 kids. And then when I was 39, I had a really terrible accident. I broke my back in a horse jumping accident. And by the time I was 40, I had signed up in law school. It was like one of those, you come out of this alive and you take the road less traveled, or the fork that you passed on the first time. So after law school, I became a criminal prosecutor, and it was a dream job. Though a few years into it, friends talked me into writing again. They said, Mary, you need this. Your writing is not behind you. And so I started the blogging, and then I put together the essay collections. And finally, I think I had turned over pretty much every rock in my life and looked at it a few times in the essays. And I thought it's time to do something different. Well, around that time, my youngest son and his wife had brought home the tiniest kitten I'd ever seen, a rescue kitten. And they named him Finnegan, and he got to live with me for the first 2 weeks because my ex-husband at that point was allergic to cats. And so I got to know him when he was like, this is the best part of kittens. And then about a year or two later, he came back to live with me for 6 months when they went to Ireland. And there was something about him that just reminded me of a circus performer. And you have to remember, Wisconsin circus is never far away because the Ringling Brothers got their start here. At the same time, my younger daughter was pursuing an interest in contemporary circus aerials. And so the conversation was always, circus, kitten, circus, kitten. And the two things came together, and I just decided to write a book based on a rescue kitten who finds a happy home in a circus museum, which, of course, circus museum was just 80 miles down the road from me. So that's what I'm starting off with. I'm starting off with the chapter where the 2 mice that have been living in the circus museum for their whole lives, being from a long line of circus mice, have discovered that they're going to have to make some big adjustments because a new family has moved in and they have to stay under the radar. But here's the chapter where the kitten shows up. And big changes are going to have to be made. So here we have Finnegan the Circus Cat and chapter 5. And by the way, I did the illustrations inside the book. I didn't plan it that way. You just roll with it when it happens. So,
excuse me, I would like to interrupt because I think this is important. This book won the first place in the Royal Palm Literary Awards. I wanted to get that out.
Okay. Shout out for the Florida Writers Association.
Okay, right. Thank you. Okay, please read.
And the thing about that, it won as an unpublished manuscript, but by the time it was published and I flew down to get an award, I had put it into place, and I was able to walk up to the podium and say, "Hey, and it's real. It's not just unpublished. It's real."
Okay.
So the entire series is narrated by a mouse, who is pretty much my alter ego as a 10-year-old. So it says a lot about me.
Right.
A couple of weeks went by and things settled into a routine. Charlie, one of the children in the family, spent a lot of time down at the stream fishing and exploring the woods outside the town. Lucy, that's the daughter who's going to find the kitten, had made fast friends with Cindy Applebaum, and after breakfast, she'd pedal her bike a couple of blocks to Cindy's house, and the two of them would spend the day giggling together. Or so Leroy and I imagined. Maybe they spent their time dressing Hector and Godfrey up in doll clothes and having tea parties. Hector was a small, whipped, skinny Siamese cat with a brown face and short hair, and he always looked like he just pinched his paw in a mousetrap. Godfrey, on the other hand, was huge, the biggest cat I'd ever seen outside of a lion's cage. He was the size of a small dog and covered with a very long and fluffy coat of orange and white striped fur that made him look like a walking footstool. You'd think somebody built like that would be jolly or mellow or friendly, but Godfrey was anything but. He and Hector had been best friends and hunting buddies forever, and you almost never saw the one without the other. The thought of the two of them, stuffed into satin doll dresses with lace and ribbon caps, playing Marie Antoinette Has a Tea Party with Cindy and Lucy, had just started to be my favorite daydream. Cindy and Lucy seemed to go everywhere together, side by side. Today was no exception, except that when they showed up again in the afternoon, Lucy walked her bike into the barn and parked it behind the door in the shade. Cindy parked hers by the front porch. Lucy reached into the white wicker basket on the front handlebars, and it looked like she was tucking something in. Then she ran out of the barn and up to the porch where she met Cindy. Both girls went into the kitchen, but Lucy looked over her shoulder before she stepped through the doorway. Leroy must have been having a really great dream because he stayed asleep and snoring through the whole arrival. I nudged him in the ribs. "Hey, wake up." "Oh, what's up?" He licked his lips like he could still taste what he was eating in his sleep. "I don't know, but there's something strange about Lucy's bike." Leroy looked over the edge of the hay bale. "Looks the same to me," he said. "No, that's not it." I said, "Look where it is." It's in the barn." So why is it in the barn? Why ain't it out on the porch with Cindy's bike?" "I don't know," he said. "I don't care. If I get back to sleep, maybe I'll still be in the dream with the cheese curds and the hot fudge." He turned over. I was about to let it go, and then there was just the smallest rustle from the basket on Lucy's bike. I strained to hear it, but the sound didn't repeat. Maybe I'd just been hearing things. I shrugged and tried to find a more comfortable spot for a nap. Maybe Leroy had the right idea. I looked over at Leroy. He was wide awake now. His big ears pitched forward where the tiny sound had come from. He did have a thing for strange noises when he was awake enough to notice them. "I heard something," he said. "Did you?" I opened my mouth to answer and then shut it again. We could play the who heard what game all day, or we could just go to investigate. We ran down to the floor and up the bicycle wheels until we reached the top of the basket. Lucy had left her sweatshirt in the basket. Nothing moved. "Do you think there's something under there?" Leroy asked. I shrugged. "Let's look." Leroy's the one with the muscles, and so he grabbed an edge of the sweatshirt and pulled it back. Oh, dear. What lay in the basket was small, not much bigger than Leroy. It was damp and asleep with its eyes pinched tightly closed. It had a white face and gray striped ears and a set of white whiskers that were wider than its head. A pair of brown smudges under its pink nose looked like a tiny mustache. It shivered every few seconds and hugged a sleeve of the sweatshirt that was wrapped in its tiny paws even tighter. It opened its eyes and looked straight at Leroy and then closed them again. Leroy pulled the edge of the sweatshirt back into place, and the two of us retreated to the safety of our hay bale to ponder what we've seen. "It's a cat," Leroy said in wonderment. "I didn't know they came so small." "That's because it's a baby," I told him. "He's pretty cute," Leroy said, "and he looks awfully cold and lonesome." Leroy's got such a good heart. But I was going to have to set him straight right now. He might be feeling lucky because Boomer, that's the family dog, had turned out to be friendly. "He might be all cute and fluffy now, but you know what he'll grow into," I said. I immediately started thinking about where we might have to move to. I hated to leave the Farnsworth place. It had such a bunch of good memories for me, but a cat was a cat was a cat. There was no getting around that. "Maybe we could be friends," Leroy suggested. "I made friends with the dog." "No, dogs are different," I said. "How?" he asked. "Well," I said, "for one thing, I don't think they're as smart." "What's another?" "They're naturally friendlier," I said. "But we don't know if this little guy won't be friendly." "Doesn't matter," I said glumly. "He'll still be a cat." At that moment, Lucy and Cindy came back into the barn. Leroy and I picked a perch above the action and hung out. Lucy carried a saucer of milk over to the bike, and Cindy picked the kitten out of the basket. They took turns cuddling him and watching him drink from the saucer, and then they wrapped him back up in the sweatshirt and put him back in the basket. "Come on, Leroy. The handwriting is on the wall," I said. "We might as well load up on food for the next few days because we don't know where we're going to end up." Cindy finally rode her bike back home, and Lucy spent most of the evening out in the barn. Leroy and I went down to the riverbank. Charlie had left the crust of a sandwich by his favorite fishing spot, and so we feasted on bread and bologna. I never could understand why some folks don't like the crust on their sandwich. They were the best part. Then, when all the lights in the house were out, we headed back to the barn. Leroy yanked me aside, just before Lucy would have stepped on me in the dark. "What the heck?" Lucy was in her nightgown, and she was sneaking into the barn. When she came out, she had the sweatshirt all rolled up in her arms. Then, as we watched, she tiptoed back into the house, as quiet as a mouse.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I want to say that your cover photos are adorable, and I see that they're in the Museum of Wisconsin Art.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Museum of Wisconsin Art. I've had photos in a lot of places. I do sometimes display at the Sheboygan Visual Artists, and I think I would have had one or two photos in the member show at the Museum of Wisconsin Art. I go in a lot of directions, and I don't remember a lot of them sometimes.
Okay. You might put this on, I don't know if we've got a time, but you have a neat memoir, or you have a lot of different essays in your new book, When the Shoe Fits.
Yes, that was kind of a roundup of my favorites. And once again, as I've explained, I'm a self-published author. I'm a legend in my own mind. Everything from start to finish is mine, including that would be my party dress on the cover of the book, as well as my party shoes. And my daughter with the leg tattoo is wearing them while I'm taking her picture at the Museum of Wisconsin Art. There you go. That's where that connection comes in. Yes.
Well, if we don't have time for you to read it today, please come back and read it. I think I read a little bit and I enjoyed it.
I would love to. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to read a blurb from my book. All my books, except the one that I'm trying to get published right now, have cats in them. So this is, I think, appropriate. We're talking about cats today. My first book in the series, in the Gracie series, is Come Along With Me. And the blurb goes like this. Come along with me will transport 8 to 12-year-old children, their parents, and their grandparents to another world when they read Come Along With Me. An adventure about friendship and caring, the unfortunate consequences of jealousy, and the power of hope. Meet Gracie, a ditzy dwarf kangaroo from the 36th universe, a creature who lives in a perfect realm. Because she is bored, Gracie longs for an adventure to St. Petersburg, Russia. A place she imagines is filled with beauty and enchantment. Much to the tiny Rue's surprise, her ability to transport herself to the land of the czars has failed. She ends up at a dairy farm in St. Clair, Pennsylvania, where she saves the life of Gibson, an abandoned Maine Coon cat. The unlikely pair become fast friends. While Gracie tries to find her way back home, Gibson carves a life for himself on a farm with his newly adopted mistress, the farmer's young daughter. There's one hitch. The overworked farmer demands that Gibson earn his keep. Gibson's task is thwarted somewhat when he experiences strange visions. But are these visions the result of a thrashing he received from the family's 2 dogs? Or maybe Gibson sees parallel universes? As outsiders, the little kangaroo and the cat from the city negotiate the perils of farm life. They meet 2 malicious rats who hate anyone who is happy. The 2 devoted friends must contend with stampeding cows and a barnyard of critters that have little use for newcomers. Will Gibson keep his sanity and become the little girl's pet? Will Gracie ever see the splendor of the Russian Versailles? Will the farmer survive the evil machinations of the rat wildernessman? Drift back to the days of Barbie dolls, hula hoops, and Sputnik to find out. And my book, it's available on Amazon. Come Along With Me by Linda Schell. Thank you. And I'm going to turn this over very shortly to Linda R. Wright. And in the meantime, I want to say thank you for listening to our show. We are always looking for sponsors for our shows as well as volunteers. I want to remind you all that we're a nonprofit operation. We have a 501c status. And if you'd like to sponsor our show, please sponsor our show. We need money. Please call 941-564-8739. And I'm going to turn it over to Linda R. Wright. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Writers on the Air. I am your co-host, Linda Wright. I would like to open up my half of the show with reading from our station manager, RJ Malloy. He has a wonderful poetry book called A Traveler's Journal. And every week we try to open up with one of his fantastic poems. This is called A Traveler's Journal. Early this morning, on my walk to somewhere, through the woodlot where the factory once stood, the once paved paths covered in leaves, only the square plateau of the foundation betrays what once was here. The leaves did not conceal the edge of an old black notebook, and I gingerly lift it free. A diary, a traveler's journal. Was it recently dropped? Is the owner nearby? The water-stained, rumpled pages, ink-smeared and faded, console me that I am still on my walk alone. So I sit on the concrete slab and carefully with a single finger turn the pages and read. This precious gift to read, like the foundation I sit on, it holds me above the rest, the encroachment of the leaves. A tired old journal lifts me above the leaves and drops me into the very soul of a traveler. And for a time, I am the traveler moving through this space, this time, this life. Then the spell ends, and I must go on, back to my own life, my own time. For a moment, hesitation. Do I keep it? The thought passes, and I place it on the concrete altar above the encroachment of the leaves. As I walk on, the leaves cover my feet. For a moment, I stop and look back. Have I left no tracks, No sign that I was here. I stoop and pick up a leaf, rising with the stiffness that a damp autumn morning brings. I marvel at its colors, the symmetry, the tenderness of the stem and veins. In all of this woodlot, there is no one other like it. Again, the world beckons me and I move on. The simplicity of just being here is sign enough. That was wonderful, RJ.
Thank you very
And as
much,
usual,
RJ.
we really love his stuff. I am now going to read from our other co-host who usually can't make it on Tuesday mornings, but once we get back to the radio station, she will be joining us. And I think the three of us, Linda, Schell, myself, and Emma, will be all co-hosting. This is called All That Is Familiar by Emma Fikes Alberts. And I'm going to read about Taney Street. This is where she grew up in Philadelphia. We've both lived in Philadelphia, New Jersey, so we're more or less like thick as thieves because we have so much in common. This is called, like I said, 1700 North Taney Street. One tiny city block in Philadelphia with houses huddled together for comfort. Strangers and relatives sharing the most intimate moments of your life. First steps, first date. Best friends, sworn enemies. Noisy neighbors, strangely quiet neighbors. Grandparents, cousins, and the trusted family doctor. Miracles of birth found Taney Street, and life began. Death came to visit on silent wings to steal your loved ones away. There were block parties, victory flags, air raid warnings, and war heroes. Illegally opened fire hydrants to relieve the beast of city summers. Easter parades up and down the block. Trick or treat when people cared who was behind a mask. Christmas lights sparkled while the blessed snow fell, muffling the harsh sounds. Birthday parties, graduations, weddings, wakes, and funerals came and went with the seasons. Dreams were born there, dreams to leave Taney Street and live at the other end of the trolley car line. Taney Street is a million broken dreams away, and yet in the attic of my mind, all the joys, fears, laughter, and sorrows are kept in the trunk of my memories. I travel back in and out of body dream, back to all that was good, all that was bad, all that was familiar. And that's from our own Emma Fikes Alberts.
Thank you.
That was real, yes. She's a hoot. You would really like her, Mary.
Yeah.
She's funny. Okay, I'm going to read something from Dobie Pasco. He's been with us for years. And he was with us when we first started out our show way back on Monday nights. This is called Raking Leaves with Memories. This dry spring has almost killed my avocado tree, the first year it may produce. Leaves turning yellow, then brown and dry. My attempts at watering help very little. The leaves keep falling, becoming dry and crisp underfoot, rustling in the night. But this welcoming all-day rain has made all the needed difference, washing down all the dry leaves and greening up the remainders. I rake these dry, crisp leaves and remember raking leaves with my father both when I was a child and when both he and I were much older. When I was little, he did the heavy work. When he became older, the burden switched to me. Today, as I rake and he is long gone, I wish I could tell today's children how those days working with my father were the happiest days of my life. And the memories, even through the tears, are the best a child or man could ever have. And somehow tell them, sons and daughters, to cherish those times working with their dads and moms, as those memories will last forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's from Leonard Dobie, which is his nickname, Pasco. Okay, I recently got back from New Jersey, where I grew up. And there used to be, well, there was an old train station, a depot that was in the center of the city. And my girlfriend and I used to walk miles up to Woodbury to shop all day long. And all the way back, we used to stop at this train depot and sit on a bench and wave to the passenger cars that would go by. So I finally went up there, and after years of neglect, they turned it into this wonderful cafe. And her and I and my other girlfriend, we all went there when I was up there. And I took pictures, and it brought back such wonderful, wonderful memories that I wrote a poem about it. This is called Woodbury Station Cafe, when we sat on the bench dreaming. Days of youth quietly reawakened, soft rustling autumn leaves, slowly dancing from treetops, baptized again and again by gentle rains invoking remembrance. Sitting leisurely, or ghosts of past, that spring's innocence of then, excitedly watching the train of life speed by on the long steel tracks to somewhere. The lonely, forgotten train station, standing the test of time, gave shelter on busy Saturday afternoons to our youth, taking advantage of the long benches' comforting arms, welcoming us to rest, waving to the conductor in hopes a return wave of recognition, enhancing our joy over such a small, trivial thing as he had done many times before. Years passed, the train tracks traveled to somewhere, and so did we. In the autumn of our years, we returned. After years of neglect and those forgotten dreams of youth, a dazzling diamond along the tracks greeted us with enthusiastic memory. Like in the lady she is, surrounded by nature's ornaments, she offers the same warmth, inviting us into her inner walls of times past to reflect and dream again. We are all now on board that train, passengers on our golden journey to somewhere, looking out the windows, waving to the youth that was us. Thank you. Thank you.
Brings back a lot of memories.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Okay. All right. All right. I have one from Mike Neville. He is a songwriter, and a friend of his puts it to music, but he's like a poetic songwriter. So this is called My Living a Dream, or I'm Living a Dream. I'm sorry, Mike. I come home to you after work each night. You kiss me sweet. I hold you tight. Honey, you make me smile. It's no surprise. I'm living a dream right before my eyes. You blow me over with the way you dress. Honey, nothing for you but the best. The reason I love you, it's simple. It's everything you do. I'm so in love with you. Your heart was my quest. Sit right down and let me tell you the rest. Your smile always lights up the room, as sexy as a night with a full moon, and your eyes like diamonds in the sky. For you, honey, you know I would die. I love it, baby, the way you walk across the floor. I can't take my eyes off you. I just want you more. And your body is so soft to the touch. The love you give me, I can't get enough. Each time you love me is always better than before. I want your love every night I walk through that door. I come home to you after each work night. You kiss me sweet. I hold you tight. Honey, you make me smile. It's no surprise. I'm living a dream right before my eyes. And that was from Mike Neville. That was from Mike Neville. All right, I have one from Steve Lind. He's another poetry writer who's been with us for many years. These are two short ones. This is called The Eye of Silence. Where visions inspires the mind to cross through dimensions sublime and emerge like a paradigm, witnessing the creatures evolving the features of a galactic pantomime, moving with the rhythm of rhyme, supersonically and ironically transcribing the mountain they climb, where visions conspires with the Rorschach-like fires that illuminate the subconscious mind. The eye of silence is the door of perception to the treasures you seek to find. That was great, Steve. I'm sorry, excuse me. This is called Silence by Stephen Lind. Sometimes I enjoy the silence when I wake up in the morn and night has quieted everything just before the day is born. The stillness is transcendent when it locks the noise or shorn, and nature's grand cacophony from darkness has been torn. The confusion has been quieted with the fear of darkness gone, and the sun begins to rise to turn the day back on. Birds will sing, and their chatter will bring the animal kingdom's song, but I enjoy the silence that never lasts for long. All right. Okay. I have one from Antonio Caluso.
Right, it's he's wanting to be attacked with this if we ever get on our feet, and he just wanted us to read this. It's a famous poem by a famous author.
Okay. This is called Love's Philosophy by Percy Bysshe Shelley. The fountains mingle with the river, and the rivers with the ocean. The winds of heaven mix forever with a sweet emotion. Nothing in the world is single, all things by a law divine. In one another's being mingle, why not I with thine? See the mountains kiss high heavens, and the waves clasp one another. No sister flower would be forgiven if it's disdain its brother. And the sunlight clasps the earth, and the moonbeams kiss the sea. Why are all these kissings worth if thou kiss not me? Okay, and his wife was Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. Now that's down my alley because I like writing spooky anyway. And I have to start. All right, this is by our own Carol Castagna. This is called The Understanding Heart. Sometimes there's a matching of the souls, a meeting of the hearts. In casual conversation, a brief meeting at a bistro. It's as though a moment in time stands still, and you see in each other's eyes a familiar deprivation. Even though fleeting, the moment grips, and you ache and grieve in turn, and face to face, and yes, eye to eye, you recognize, you feel a familiar heartache, smile warmly, perhaps a brush of the hand, and move on. That was beautiful, Carol, beautiful. I'm going to read another short one of hers by Carol Castagna. We wish you well, Carol. We know you can't be with us for a while, but we all love and wish you well. This is called Listen to the Quiet. The night sky's splendor runs to greet me. I wait, watching from my lanai, and feel blessed. When I awaken, the lazy morning sun enfolds me. Still in its warmth, the grass grows, and I listen in. Peace rules my reach of this world. A cardinal struts nearby, chirps a song written for me. Rain droplets trickle down my cheeks, and life is what I feel and hear and see and touch right now in this glorious, quiet moment. Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Okay. We're trying to fit all our regular writers in. I don't know who. This is from Ethan. He was a new writer, and he had to move away. He was going to be a tech for us, but we still enjoy his writings. This is called Halloween, a Celebration. Short, but fun. Celebrate the dead and all things spooky, ghoulish witches or cutthroat pirates. Go to haunted houses. Trick or treating is all tradition. Stay out late or watch Halloween-esque movies to celebrate. Choose, celebrate, have some fun. Okay, and this one here, Isolda Hunter. We call her Izzy. She just wrote another memoir book, and I think she just the manuscript just came back. But this is called Ballad of Standing Rock. 200 men on horseback protecting sacred lands from North and South Dakota when deaf ears make demands. Our sacred burial ground lies here. We need our water pure, so we may live and then to die in dignity, not fear. First Army Corps of Engineers, then President of this land. They plead their case, begging these men to hear and understand. The poison that your gas line brings can seep into this earth while killing tribe and livestock, rendering it of no worth. Decades we've lived with reverence for what spirit creates. United Nations hears their plea, yet still this country waits. Then, as the snow falls, crowds increase, 2,000 veterans strong. Sit downs, lie downs throughout the land proclaim this pipeline wrong. Protect, respect, those vets cry out. Send your policemen home. 500 treaties in the past, broken though writ in stone. It said you can't fight City Hall. We'll prove these words untrue. High time each one of us speaks out. Justice is overdue. And this is from her book, A People Potpourri, which you can get on Amazon. This is wonderful. I'm going to read another one of hers. This is called First Doll. Requiring weeks of whining, some tear-filled begging too. My mom and Nana then succumbed. What else could they do? Her name was Amazandra. She had a sideways glance from biggest eyes you have ever seen on such a tiny face. Her smile was made of cinnamon, her fingers welcomed wide. Her skin was satin chocolate, her heart held love inside. She made me giggle with delight each morning as I woke to find her smiling up at me, her hanky diaper soaked. The very young, perhaps I sensed unspoken apathy towards those who had a chocolate skin. I felt she needed me. My Amazandra, sweetest doll, compared to all the rest of many dolls I later owned. I always loved you best. That was really, really pretty. That was really pretty. This is from Scott Zirkelbach, who has his own poetry group at the Northport Library. But of course, because of the COVID, none of us, can go to the places we're used to going. So he has been joining us every week since we've been on virtual Writers on the Air, and we really appreciate it. But this week he could not join us. So with honor, I will read one of Scott's poems. This is called Dirty Cotton. Every storm, be it dark and heavy, create a distance where at the pier men do not exist. Fish find shelter under the boardwalk. What would thunder be if it didn't break the silence first? On the grassy shore, a lone palm will brave this menacing storm. With no friend to call his own, all the fishermen have gone home. I am more threatened by the steely bed of comforting water, like a rippled sheet what lies beneath, crowding the frame of the blackened sky, dirty cotton overstuffed with drama. The saturated sponge pillows look to be ready to cry. Heaven's tears, I guess, are usually air-dried. Could there be a patch of blue, a beam of hope, some silver lining? The earth smells brand new. The sun comes back out. The day she is all clean cotton. Can I say I still love you? That was beautiful, Scott. That was beautiful. We have another one of Scott. This is called A Ray of Hope. That's a good picture of you, Scott, on the board there. Some people need a miracle, and some find their misery is the only thing they can never lose. But I refuse to give up on people. I don't have the kind of strength it takes to save a soul, but I can pray as well as any man can. I won't let you fall, even when you want nothing to do with me at all. People, we are a lot of work, most of us a work in progress. So many days do we stress, forgetting the miracle is this day we are living. We take for granted the very breath we inhale, tripping ourselves, landing upside down, ready to throw in the towel. Then, as if on cue, a stranger approached with a ready-made smile to change his life, restoring my faith in people. It is the little things in life that make the most difference. Kindness is not a season, and there need not be any reason we need a world of kind people. Open a door, let the lady cut in line. Be the light. So many people are waiting for a ray of hope. That was beautiful, Scott. And isn't that the truth? It's like everything is so different today, you know. All right, this is one from our own Sheila Colquhoun, who is Scottish, and she has a few books that she has written. Hi, Sheila. She can't be with us naturally because, of the COVID. So they have all graced us with her poetry, which we enthusiastically read. This is called Iona of the Silver Sands. I see boats dance upon your blue waters. The blue turn to green in the blink of an eye. I see gulls whirl and sweep high above them and join in the beauty of sun, sea, and sky. I hear the sea upon the rocks breaking. I hear the sea as it kisses the sand. And in my heart, these kisses I send you as you are now gone from this lovely island. I feel the breezes that flirt by so lightly. I feel the enchantment that's here in this land. Wherever you travel, you'll not see an island as fair as the one that's here in Scotland. The sands, they are silver, a beauty to feast on. My eyes never tire of viewing this land. Iona, Iona, how peaceful my soul is when in silence I see old history's hand. The King of Scotland's great glory, choose here to be buried, and here they do lie. Forgot, no, O Scotland, thy glory. This island is sacred to both you and I. The gulls cry above them. Their cries are so lonesome, but the kings and the lords won't awake with their cries. Yet once long ago, they gave all their life's blood to keep this land free of all tyranny's ties. So let Scotland once more ring with the stories of the kings and the lords, so brave and so bold. Just come once again, come visit this island, and Scotland's great glory will learn and behold. That was fabulous, Sheila, and that was copyrighted by Sheila, and it is in one of her books. Okay, we will get back to Mary for a few minutes. I think we have like 6 minutes left. Do you have something small you can read for us, like a 3-minute?
Well, I'll just pull something out of this book, and when it's 3 minutes, you can gong me. How's that?
Okay, I'll pull my ear when we're ready to stop. Okay, thanks, Mary.
Okay. Okay, so here Finnegan is going to find his circus talent. It's called Airborne. Finnegan may have been named for the muscle-bound strong man on the poster in the barn, but he sure was fond of heights almost right off the bat. Probably that whole scene of balancing on the cannon was what set the hook. At any rate, he was as sure-footed as a mountain goat or a mouse. With those claws and long legs of his, he could leap up to the sides of the wagons and across the beams that ran from side to side under the barn roof. By the way, Finnegan is living in the barn because nobody other than the little girl who adopted him can know he's there, plus the mice. He even found a patch of loose shingles big enough to squeak through for some sunbathing on the roof with me and Leroy. And once he was on the roof, it was just a few steps to the power cable running from the house to the barn. He took to it like his own personal tightrope. We were on our way up to the roof one sunny day, in fact, when Finnegan noticed what looked a little like a swing tied up in the shadows of the roof. "What's that?" he asked, picking his way across the beam. "It's called a trapeze," Leroy said. "Well, how does it work?" Finnegan asked. Leroy pointed toward a poster on the far side of the barn for the great Costellos in the Sells Brothers Circus. 5 guys wearing tights and spiffy mustaches were way up in the air above a crowd. One hung from a bar by his feet, another swung upside down by his knees, and one seemed to be absolutely flying fearlessly through the air toward another guy waiting to catch him by the wrists. Leroy motioned toward the roof. He had a good-sized bunch of apples and walnuts and was deeply desiring a nap in the sunlight. "Really," Finnegan said, "heck, I want to try it." I said, I think it's better to work with a partner. And I think it works even better if there's a safety net under you in case you fall. Oh, you guys just worry too much, Finnegan said, and he hopped over to the top of the ladder and began to chew at the twine that held the trapeze to the platform. Oh, let me help, I said. You might chew through something important. Leroy just sat there and watched, his desire to rest in the sunlight balancing against curiosity about just what could happen next. Before I could even blink, Finnegan said, "Watch me," and grabbed the wooden bar with both front feet and launched himself off the platform into midair. Leroy looked like he was going to faint. It was getting to be a habit. There's an old-fashioned song about a daring young lad on a flying trapeze who swings through the air with the greatest of ease. This was not Finnegan on his first try. He looked pretty dramatic when he pushed off, but after swinging a bit like the pendulum hanging in old man Farnsworth's grandfather clock, he finally came to a halt, dangling over the center of the barn like a furry sack of potatoes. He pulled himself up on his elbows and turned to look back at us. "Now what?" he asked. "You're going to need to swing yourself back to the platform I held." And then there's a whole bunch of back and forth that he's just not getting it. And then Leroy and I looked at each other. He shrugged, but he had a worried look on his face. "Why not try the legs and the tail?" he volunteered. Finnegan's back legs went one way and his tail went the other, and now he looked like a bag of potatoes trying to get mashed. The overall effect was a big wiggle that went nowhere. He kept on wiggling, and I saw that Leroy's eyes were transfixed, watching the end of Finnegan's tail, that little patch of white whip back and forth, back and forth. "He's just like that big clock. If only someone could wind him up and get him going," said Leroy, holding his big cheeks in his hands. "That's it," I said. "Leroy, sometimes you are just a genius." "What did I say?" he asked. "Finnegan," I yelled. He quit thrashing around and looked at me. "Start with your tail." "What?" "The tail. You're going to swing your tail, and then the tail is going to swing you." I was yelling as hard as I could to make a point, and it looks like I'm out of time here. Thank you so much for having me. Finnegan does not fall. He does make it.
Thank you so much, Mary, for joining us, and we hope you do come back. On behalf of Linda Schell and myself, co-host for Writers on the Air, we hope that you've enjoyed the show today. Thank you so much to our tech, Mary LaBrosse, who is behind my computer screen, for making this session and all of our sessions run so smoothly. And a very special thank you to our station manager, RJ Malloy, for giving us this wonderful, wonderful opportunity to share our talents. And Linda Schell, thank you so much for being our marketing volunteer.
Right.
Without her, she's spread all over the place. Thank you again, and have a wonderful week. This will be on the radio, WKDW radio, on Sundays at 3:05 in the afternoon.
We won't be on next week.
But we won't be on next week, so I don't know why. But anyway,
Marie's on vacation.
she's on vacation, Marie. All right, thank you so much. We love you.